Alright, here we come. Are you ready? Can you hear the rain? It's another stormy day. But anyway, we're here and we're about to go. So are you ready? Get comfy. Here we come. Alright. Hello. Testing. Hi guys, sorry the rains have started, of course, as soon as the stream starts. Very sorry about that. Hopefully you can hear me above it. It might stop. We've had Melbourne 5 seasons in a day today. It's been absolutely amazing. Here in Lockdown City, we've had everything from sunshine, blazing sun, to, to rain, to wind, to hail, just everything. It's been everything. But anyway, enough of that. Here we are. And I think, are we starting a new chapter tonight? Is that what we're doing? Do you remember? I've been pretty scattered today, sorry. No, we started a new chapter last night. Work as hard as you possibly can on at least one thing and see what happens. So, I need my goggles, don't I? Alright. Comfy? Got yourself a hot beverage? I do. So I'm drinking Milo. And, that's right, we're up to the subheading Dogma and Spirit. So, last night, I just need a quick brain reminder. Oh yeah, discipline and unity, talking about when we are overcome by our, really strong emotions like rage and stuff and lust and blah, 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 that we are in essence, this is according to Geordie, I'm not saying this is what it is, in essence, that our self is kind of pushed aside and we're in essence possessed by a sub-personality, I think he calls it, which is, the rage or the lust or the whatever heightened, I can't remember what examples he used. He used rage as a lot. And so that part of kind of trying to be more or feel more balanced and functional within yourself was just trying to be a bit more integrated during those times. And he had some childhood examples and stuff. But anyway, we're up to the subheading Dogma and Spirit. You can go to the stream last night if you want to catch up. The limiting disciplines that serve both as precondition for a game and the development of a unity, and the development of a unity of being, can usefully be considered thou shalt nots. Rules that highlight what is definitely not to be done, whilst whatever is supposed to be done is taking place. Abiding by these rules produces a development of character with a particular nature or essence. We've already discussed this as, say, the development of a personal desirability as a player of many games or sequences of games. As in the case in many other situations, it appears that this idea is already implicit in the stories that make up the bedrock of our culture. This is particularly evident in the Gospel of Mark, which is a commentary on what are among the most influential rules of the game ever formulated, the Mosaic 10 Commandments, and even more broadly, a commentary on rules themselves. The commandments follow. 1. Thou shalt have no other gods before me. 2. Thou shalt not make unto thee any graven image. 3. Thou shalt not take the name of thy Lord, thy God, in vain. 4. Remember the Sabbath day, to keep it holy. 5. Honour thy father and thy mother. 6. Thou shalt not kill. 7. Thou shalt not commit adultery. 8. Thou shalt not steal. Comment down below if you know what movie that's from. 9. Thou shalt not bear false witness against any neighbour. Against thy neighbour, 10. Thou shalt not covet. I'm sure they weren't written in English, but I'm guessing that's the general gist of them all. The first speaks to the necessity of aiming at the highest possible unity. So, thou shalt have no other gods before me. The second, to the danger of worshipping false idols by confusing the representation or the image with the inevitable it's supposed to be. It's supposed to represent. The third, thou shalt not take the name of the Lord thy God in vain, means that it's wrong to claim moral inspiration from God while knowingly committing sinful acts. The fourth, remember the Sabbath day, means that it's necessary to leave time to regularly consider what is truly valuable or sacred. The fifth keeps families together, mandating honour, respect and gratitude from children as just reward for the sacrifices made by parents. I read it a little differently, but we'll go along with Geordie. The sixth prevents murder, obviously, but by doing so also protects the community from potential descent into constant and potentially multi-generational feuding. The seventh, thou shalt not commit adultery, mandates the sacredness of the marriage vow, predicated on the assumption, like the fifth, that the stability and value of the family is of paramount importance. Yeah, I don't disagree with that. I just think that our definition of family is a little backwards. A little unevolved, shall we say. And the eighth, thou shalt not steal, allows for honest, hard-working people to reap the benefits of their efforts without fear that what they have produced will be taken from them arbitrarily, and thereby makes civilized society a possibility. Yeah. And the ninth, thou shalt not bear false witness, maintains the integrity of the law, reducing or eliminating its use as a weapon. And the 10th, thou shalt not covet, is a reminder that envy and the resentment it breeds is a destructive force of the highest power. Look, I do relate to those 9 precepts quite differently, through a different lens. But I don't really think it's that important right now, because I do agree that those precepts are pretty much the most sensible ones by which to live. Yeah, I just don't interpret them quite the same, even though they kind of mean they're meaning the same thing. Sorry, oh God, I'm bad at talking today. Maybe every day, who knows? Maybe I'm just terrible at this. Anyway, thank you, Ray. Thank you for easing off. I really appreciate that. It's worthwhile thinking of these commandments as a minimum set of rules for a stable society, an iterable social game. The commandments are rules established in the book of Exodus and part of that unforgettable story. But they're also pointers to something else. Ooh, what, Geordie? What? Oh, excuse me, I need to get comfortable. Something that simultaneously emerges from and transcends the rules and constitutes their essence. The core idea is this: subjugate yourself voluntarily to a set of socially determined rules, those with some tradition in their formulation, and a unity that transcends the rules will emerge. That unity constitutes what you could be if you concentrate on a particular goal and see it through. Apart from that last sentence, I don't disagree with that either. I just think that same thing, some of the definitions we might maybe argue about, or some of the ways that could be, visualized and lived out. I don't necessarily think would be the same as his. There's a story relevant to this in the Gospel of Mark, to this idea. Excuse me. The pertinent section begins with Christ journeying to the temple of Jerusalem, where he casts out the money changers and merchants and addresses the crowd with an irresistible charisma. And as the tale goes, quote, "The scribes and the chief priests heard it and sought how they might destroy him, for they feared him, because all the people was astonished at his doctrine," end quote, Mark 11:18. In consequence, they begin to conspire, questioning this strange prophet, hoping to entice him into a heretical and therefore potentially fatal statement, sending to him, quote, "certain of the Pharisees and of the Herodians to catch him in his words," end quote, Mark 12:13. Christ deals masterfully, to say the least, with the questioners, reducing them to an aggrieved and resentful silence. The section ends with what is arguably the most difficult and treacherous of questions, posed by a particularly cunning, but also perhaps begrudgingly admiring interlocutor. And here we go with, I'll do my best, with Mark 12:28-34. Thank you for making it quiet. "And one of the scribes came, and having heard them reasoning together, and perceiving that he had answered them well, asked him, 'Which is the first commandment of all?' And Jesus answered him, 'The first of all the commandments is, Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God is one Lord. And thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, and with all thy soul, and with all thy mind, and with all thy strength. This is the first commandment. And the second is like, namely this. The second is like, namely this. Thou shalt love thy neighbour as thyself. There's none other commandment greater than these.' And the scribe said unto him, 'Well, master, thou hast said the truth, for there is one God, and there is none other but he. And to love him with all the heart, and with all the understanding, with all the soul, and with all the strength, and to love his neighbour as himself is more than all the whole burnt offerings and sacrifices.' And when Jesus saw that he answered discreetly, he said unto him, 'Thou art not far from the kingdom of God.' And no man after that durst ask him any question." So what does all this mean? The personality, integrated by disciplined adherence to a set of appropriate rules, is simultaneously, although perhaps unknowingly, guided by or imitating the highest possible ideal. Precisely that ideal that constitutes whatever common element of, quote, moral, makes all the rules good, just, and necessary. Well, that ideal, according to Christ's answer, is something singular, the one Lord. Thoroughly embodied. So the one thing thoroughly embodied, fully realized, all potential transmuted to realized, to manifested, thoroughly embodied, loved with all thy heart, soul, understanding, and strength. Everything you got. And then manifested as a love that is identical for self and for all of mankind. Because remember, we are all one. We're all made of the same stuff. So Western culture is, quote, unconsciously underpinned by a very profound drama, reflecting all of this because of its origin in Judeo-Christian conceptualization. And psychologically speaking, Christ is a representation or an embodiment of the mastery of dogma and the, in brackets, consequent emergence of spirit. Spirit is the creative force that gives rise to what becomes dogma with time. Spirit is also that which constantly transcends such time-honoured tradition when possible. If that makes sense. It sounds like it's like trying to do two things at once, and it kind of is, but that's pretty much the nature of the is. So it is for this reason that an apprenticeship ends with a masterpiece, the creation of which signifies not only the acquisition of the requisite skill, but the acquisition of the ability to create new skills. They don't come by accident. Although Christ commits many acts that might be considered revolutionary, as we discussed in Rule 1, he's nonetheless explicitly portrayed in the Gospels as the master of tradition. And I think, that's the carpenter thing too. My father was a master carpenter, a cabinet maker. And so I think there's the tie in there with being the carpenter and that understanding and respect for tradition without being locked in and bound and held back by it. I'm not sure. I'm not really a Bible expert, but, excuse me. He's nonetheless explicitly portrayed in the Gospels as the master of tradition and says of himself, quote, "Think not that I am come to destroy the law or the prophets. I'm not come to destroy, but to fulfill." End quote. Matthew 5:17 in the King James Version. The New International Version of the Bible perhaps puts it more comprehensibly. No, I like the older languages, but that's just me. Quote, the same thing, the same verse. "Do not think that I've come to abolish the law of the prophets. I have not come to abolish them, but to fulfill them." End quote. Christ therefore presents himself as both the product of tradition and the very thing that creates and transforms it, or recreates and transforms it. The same pattern of creative conflict pervades the Old Testament, which is in large part a series of stories about the Spirit in prophetic opposition to the inevitable corruption of dogma harnessed to serve power. It's the personality, it's the warning that, it's not the church that is the conduit to the force that creates life. It's you and the choices that you make in your day-to-day about how you're going to go about living your life, if that makes any sense. That's how I interpret that anyway. Diddly. So, the same pattern of creative conflict pervades the Old Testament, which is in large part a series of stories about the Spirit in prophetic opposition to the inevitable corruption of dogma harnessed to serve power. It is the personality who mimics that model who might be regarded as truly Western in the deepest of psychological senses. I don't know whether or why that would be a good thing, but fair enough. It seems a bizarre add-on statement, but okay. If you work as hard as you can on one thing, you will change. You will start to also become one thing instead of the clamouring multitude you once were. Right. That one thing developed properly. I've got immense problems with this language, but okay. Is not only the disciplined entity formed by sacrifice, commitment, and concentration. It is that which creates, destroys, and transforms discipline itself, civilization itself, by expressing its unity of personality and society. It is the very capital W word of truth, upon whose functions all habitable order, wrenched out of chaos, eternally depends. And then we end the chapter with the head of the chapter. Work as hard as you possibly can on at least one thing and see what happens. And that brings us to the end of Rule 7. So what do you think about that as a piece of advice? Work as hard as you possibly can on at least one thing and then see what happens. Or even, and not just about that, but about the argument that he uses for why it is a good piece of advice or a good thing to adopt as a rule. Because once again, I don't necessarily disagree with him. I just think I find the lens that he's kind of squeezing it all through, number one, to be a little blurry and confused, but that could just be me and my lack of ability to interpret him correctly. Yeah, I don't know. But yeah, that's that. Where are we up? So we're only halfway. Let's see how long Rule 8 is. Try to make one room in your home as beautiful as possible. Oh, honestly, this just sounds tedious. I don't have time for this shit. I don't, beauty to me is function, so I don't care about beauty. I'd rather have an ugly room and just look out at a beautiful sunset at the window. But I'm fucking jumping to judgment, aren't I? Yeah? And that's not a really smart thing to do. So it would take us more than one night to get through this chapter anyway, so let's start on it. And we'll see how we go. Alright, try to make one room in your home as beautiful as possible. There's a nice print of, I can't remember the name of this one either, but I'm fairly sure it's Van Gogh in the background. Yeah, I'm not sure if you can see that. The person that you can see, very faint, but I'm pretty sure that's a fairly well known, I think, a self-portrait of Van Gogh. So I can't remember the name of this piece though. Let's see what it is. Let's see. Irises, inspired by Vincent van Gogh. Irises, 1890. There you go. I never can remember the name of irises. I never can. I'm like, those ones that they've got the big tongue thing and they're white. So rule 8, try to make at least one room in your home as beautiful as possible. I guess if you only have one room as your home, it can just be a corner or a section or a shelf. Subheading: cleaning your room is not enough. I've become known for encouraging people to clean up their rooms. Perhaps because I'm serious about that prosaic piece of advice, and because I know that it's a much more difficult task than it appears. I've been unsuccessfully cleaning up my room, by the way, my home office, which I generally keep in relatively pristine condition, for about 3 years now. My life was thrown into such chaos over that period by the multitude of changes I experienced: political controversies, transformation of career, endless travel, mountains of mail, and the sequence of illnesses, that I simply became overwhelmed. The disorganisation was heightened by the fact that my wife and I had just finished having much of the house renovated, and everything we could not find a proper place for ended up in my office. There's a meme floating around the internet accusing me of hypocrisy on account of this. A still taken from a video I shot in my office, with a fair bit of mess in the background, and I cannot say that I look much better than myself. Who am I to tell people to clean up their rooms before attempting to fix the rest of the world, when apparently I cannot even do it myself? And there is something directly synchronistic and meaningful about that objection. Because I'm not in proper order at that moment, myself, and my condition undoubtedly found its reflection in the state of my office. More piled up every day as I travelled, and everything collected around me. I plead exceptional circumstances, and I put many other things in order during that time, and my office was all degenerating. But I still have a moral obligation to get back in there and put it all to rights. And the problem is not just that I want to clean up the mess, I also want to make it beautiful. My room, my house, and then, perhaps in whatever way I can manage, the community. God knows it's crying out for it. Making something beautiful is difficult. I happen to not agree, but okay. But it is amazingly worthwhile. And I absolutely agree with that. I know I just said, I don't care about me personally, I don't care about it, but it is it's something that humanity in general, it is of great value and has a big impact. And it doesn't even have to be beautiful. Not ugly is good enough, or supremely functional. So yeah, if you learn to make something in your life truly beautiful, even just one thing, then you have established a relationship with beauty. From there, you can begin. There's all different ways to have a relationship with beauty. Apparently, we're only allowed to have one type, according to Geordie. And from there, you can begin to expand your relationship out into other elements of your life and the world. Kind of, for me, beauty is in really little things. You know what I mean? Like utility, definitely. I know I keep banging on about that, but like quality as well is something that's beautiful. Efficiency is something that's really beautiful. Elegance is something that's beautiful. Simplicity is something that's beautiful. I don't know. Organic shapes, I guess, are beautiful. I don't know. I think what is beauty is like one of those philosophical questions that people have been trying, exploring for a long, long time. And it generally comes down to, you know it if you see it. Or it's in the eye of the beholder. But that's not really a definition, is it? So anyway, from there you can begin to expand that relationship out into other elements of your life and the world. And that is an invitation to the divine, if you're into that sort of thing. That is the reconnection with the immortality of childhood and the true beauty and majesty of the being you can no longer see. You must be daring to try that. I don't know, is he trying like reverse psychology or something? I don't know, whatever. If you study art and literature and the humanities, you do it so that you can familiarize yourself with the collected wisdom of our civilization. This is a very good idea, a veritable necessity. It's also really interesting. Like, you don't have to agree with it all to, study art history a bit, or political history, or social history, or world history. It doesn't mean that you have to take it all on board as gospel or believe in it in any ideological kind of way. But it does help give you an insight into why people act the way they do, whether as individuals or as nations or, larger communities. And it can help to give you insight into kind of why we are, why we have some of the problems that we have, and also help you to understand that we've repeated a lot of things over and over and over again, and we have yet to really overcome a few things as a species. So yeah, I don't think you should look down on anyone who hasn't done it, or put anyone down who doesn't want to do it. But to try and find a way to stimulate a bit of an interest for it in yourself and in other people. Just for those reasons, if you're at all interested in trying to understand, people and how they tick, or yourself. So yeah, it's a very good idea, because people, they have been working on the issues of how to live for a very long time, and the fundamentals don't really change, yeah. And what they've produced is strange, but also rich beyond comparison. Also, why not use it as a guide, even as a guide of what not to do? Your vision will be grander and your plans more comprehensive. You'll consider other people more intelligently and completely. You'll take care of yourself more effectively. You will understand the present more profoundly, rooted as it is in the past. I think that's kind of what I just said, that bit. But I don't know about taking care of yourself more effectively. I don't know how that how that ties in. And you will come to conclusions much more carefully. That unfortunately is true. I used to make incredibly ignorant, sweeping generalizations when I was, an ignorant ideologue. And then the more I learned, the more I realized I didn't know anything, and that I had this tendency to kind of really, really oversimplify complex things, in order to, either keep my conversation moving or to, try to put across a certain point, but that I couldn't really justify saying that because it couldn't possibly be true, You can't say that, because I have been an exception to the rule so many times that, eventually you're like, well, there's got, there can't be all, everyone or nobody. There's always exceptions, so you can't really speak generally. So I definitely think it helped a bit with being a bit less judgmental with people, a bit more understanding of why humans kind of act the way they do sometimes. Sorry, the rain's distracting me. So yeah, you will become more your own person. You'll develop some depth, gravitas, and true thoughtfulness. I don't know who gets to decide that's when that's actually been fulfilled, because I don't think you're meant to designate your own level of that. I think other people, I don't know how. I don't know how you qualify that or measure it. You'll speak more precisely, and other people will become more likely to listen to and to cooperate productively with you as you will with them. You'll become more your own person and less a dull and hapless tool of peer pressure, vogue, fad, and ideology. What can you say to that? Really? Buy a piece of art. What was the last piece of art you bought? I haven't bought any for a while because COVID affected my financial situation very, very much, and I was never very financial anyway. So yeah, I haven't bought a piece of art for probably it'd have to be close to a year and a half, 2 years now. But there is a local street artist whose work I really like, and I've been thinking for a long time that to ask him to make a piece for me at an agreed upon price. If I scrape together, probably would only cost me maybe $50-$60. Hopefully I could offer him a little bit more than what he asked. He doesn't charge all that much for his art. Yeah, and then see if he could do something for me. I think that would be really cool. Like, just do something random, whatever he wanted, so a piece, whatever he felt like doing. Yeah, because my art collection is small. It's quite eclectic. It is very precious to me. All the artists whose art that I've bought have all struck me in particular ways. Buy a piece of art. Find one that speaks to you, not just decoration. Don't think about it as a decoration, okay? Get away from thinking of art as decoration. Buy a piece of art. Find a piece that speaks to you and make the purchase. There's art everywhere for sale. There's so many amazing artists, all different styles, all different mediums. If it's a genuine artistic production, it will invade your life and change it a bit. A real piece of art is a window into the transcendent. See, not just decoration. And you need that in your life, because you are finite and limited and bounded by your ignorance. That should read, we are finite and ignorant. We are finite and limited, and we are bounded by our ignorance. Unless you can make a connection to the transcendent, you will not have the strength to prevail when the challenges of life become daunting. You need to establish a link with what's beyond you, or what's bigger than you. like a man overboard in high seas requires a life preserver, and the invitation of beauty into your life is one means by which that may be accomplished. I feel like I'm being preached to by a born again right now. It's for such reasons that we need to understand the role of art and stop thinking about it as an option, a luxury, or worse, an affectation. Art is the bedrock of culture itself. I do believe that. So do most of my artist friends. It's the foundation of the process by which we unite ourselves psychologically and come to establish productive peace with others. As it's said, quote, man shall not live by bread alone, end quote, Matthew 4:4. And that's exactly right. We live by beauty. We live by literature. We live by art. We cannot live without some connection to the divine. And beauty is divine. And remember, we don't have to connect divine with religious. Okay? Geordie might be, I don't know. But I don't. And beauty is divine. Because in its absence, life is too short, too dismal, and too tragic. You forgot brutal, Geordie. Life is too brutal. And we must be sharp and awake and prepared so that we can survive properly and orient the world properly and not destroy things, including ourselves. And beauty can help us appreciate the wonder of being and motivate us to seek gratitude when we might otherwise be prone to destructive resentment. Okay. Okay. Subheading: Memory and Vision. Sorry, I'm just going to The pride of the peacock is the glory of God. The lust of the goat is the bounty of God. The wrath of the lion is the wisdom of God. The nakedness of woman is the work of God. Excess of sorrow laughs, excess of joy weeps. The roaring of lions, the howling of wolves, the raging of the stormy sea, and the destructive sword are portions of eternity too great for the eye of man. Of course, that's William Blake from Proverbs of Hell, the marriage of heaven and hell. When I was a child, I knew the contours and details of all the houses in my immediate neighbourhood. I knew the back alleys, the places behind the fences, the location of each crack in the pavement, and the shortcuts that could be taken from one place to another. My geographic locale wasn't large, but I'd explored it thoroughly and my knowledge of it was very detailed. Now that I'm an adult, the same is not true. I lived in Fairview, the town I grew up in for most of my childhood and adolescence, for only 9 years, but I'm still able to picture in high resolution the street I lived on. I've lived in Toronto on the same street for more than twice as long, but I still only have a vague sense of the houses that surround mine. I do not think that's a good thing. I feel far less at home because of it. I know what you mean, Geordie. It's as if when I walk down the street and glance at a local house, I think of house as an icon, because really, what practical difference does it make to me what particularities characterise each house? And then my attention is turned to something else. I do not see the house with its specific shingles, colours, flowers and architectural details, despite the interest that might have once elicited in me had I paid careful attention. By this point in my life, I have seen so many houses in so many places that I know what a house is likely to do when I walk past it, which is very little. And thus I ignore the engaging idiosyncrasies and beauties of its details, its unique character, for better and worse, and see just enough to stay oriented as I walk past and continue to think and be elsewhere as I do. There is real loss in that. I'm simply not there in my adult neighbourhood the same way as I was as a child in my hometown. I'm separated from the reality of the world. And a very deep feeling of belonging is missing in some important way because of that. Perception has been replaced for me with functional, pragmatic memory. And this has made me more efficient in some ways, but the cost is an impoverished experience of the richness of the world. Well, you did take 2 chapters kind of vaguely telling people that they had to focus on things, and, one of the necessary repercussions of that is missing out on a whole bunch of other stuff. So is it a real loss, Geordie, or is it just a natural effect of, focusing on other things? So yeah, I remember when I started working as a junior professor in Boston, when my kids were about 2 and 3 years old. I was very preoccupied with my work, trying to keep up, trying to advance my career, trying to make enough money to support my family on a single income. I'd come home and I'd take a walk with Tammy and our children, Michaela and Julian. I found it very difficult to remain patient with them. I had too much work to do, always, or believed I did, and I disciplined myself through years of effort to focus continually on that. You're a psychologist, Geordie. How many times would you have told people, hey, don't worry, mate, for the half an hour that you take your walk, you can leave your worries at your front door, because don't worry, they'll still be there when you get back. Like, for reals? Anyway, so I think he's going to cry now because he didn't pay attention when he went walking. If we went for a walk, I wanted to know exactly where we were going, just how long it would take to get there, and precisely when we were going back. That's no attitude to adopt when trying to have a pleasant and reasonable time with toddlers. Not if you want to immerse yourself in the experience. Not if you want to watch and participate in the pleasure they take in their timeless discovery. Not unless you want to risk missing something of crucial import. It was very difficult for me to relax and focus on the present and watch my little kids pursue their meandering route through the neighbourhood with no particular destination, purpose or schedule in mind. Really, Geordie? I've enjoyed doing it with so many people's kids. I don't even have kids. And I would go, I always go for walks with my pregnant girlfriends or their born babies, or take the kids for walks, or I take the kids all down to the park and leave the parents at home so they can have a little break and stuff. Like, really? Kids need to get out. And, it's good you get to hang out with them and find out what their personalities are like, and you get to see the world through their eyes a little bit, and, I don't know. Excuse me. So now and then, however, I could snap briefly into that same frame of reference that is one of the wonderful gifts provided by your young children, and see the pristine world they inhabited, still untrammelled by practised and efficient memory, capable of producing pure joy in the newness of everything. But isn't that like the first thing that comes to mind with kids? Like, isn't that the whole thing with kids? Like, isn't that the whole lesson of kids? Maybe he just saw them as little bundles of responsibility until they could grow up and have intelligent conversations with him. I don't know. But I was still possessed enough by my future concerns to be involuntarily pulled back into intense preoccupations with getting the next thing done. But, okay. I knew perfectly well that I was missing out on beauty and meaning and engagement and actually, doing your kid the parent thing. That came out all wrong, but you know what I mean? Like, I was narrow, sharp, and focused, and I didn't waste time. Well, I think you did. You wasted fucking time taking your kid for walks and not not being with the kid. That probably sounded very judgmental, but hopefully you know what I mean. I don't really care what he did. It's his kid. He can do what he likes with it. It's in the past. It's done now anyway. I can't do anything about it. I was no longer seeing the world. I was seeing only the little I needed to navigate it with maximum speed and lowest cost. None of that was surprising. I had the responsibilities of an adult. I had a demanding job. I had to take care of my family, and that meant sacrificing the present and attending to the future. Never taking half an hour off. But having little children around and noticing their intense preoccupation with the present and their fascination with what was directly around them, it made me very conscious of the loss that accompanied maturity. Great poets are expressly aware of this, and they do what they can to remind the rest of us. Oh my gosh, he is challenging me this evening. There was a time when meadow, grove, and stream, the earth, and every common sight to me did seem paralleled. Excuse me. Let me start that again. I hate screwing up poetry. I find it very rude. There was a time when meadow, grove, and stream, the earth, and every common sight to me did seem apparelled in celestial light, the glory and the freshness of a dream. It is not now, as it hath been of yore, turn wheresoe'er I may, by night or day. The things which I have seen I now can see no more. Ye blessed creatures, I've heard the call ye to each other make. I see the heavens laugh with you in your jubilee. My heart is at your festival. My head hath in its coronal the fullness of your bliss. I feel it all. O evil day, if I was sullen while earth herself is adorning this sweet May morning, and the children are culling on every side, in 1,000 valleys, far and wide, fresh flowers while the sun shines warm, and the babe leaps up on his mother's arm. I hear, with joy I hear. But there's a tree of many, one a single field, which I have looked upon. Both of them speak of something that is gone. The pansy at my feet doth the same tale repeat. Whither is fled the visionary gleam? Where is it now, the glory and the dream? You might recognise if I've done it any justice, the kind of flow and cadence of William Wordsworth. Ode, Imitations of Immortality, from Recollections of Early Childhood. Some, in fact, never lose the glorious vision of childhood. This is particularly true of artists, and indeed seems a vital part of what makes them artists. William Blake, the English painter, printmaker, and poet, seems to have been one such person. He inhabited a uniquely visionary world. Blake perceived something closer to what the philosopher Immanuel Kant termed, quote, the thing in itself, end quote, referenced, than do most mortals, left as we are with the pale reflection of our surroundings that our increasingly restricted mature perceptions deliver to us. That might be one of the ways we are very different. Blake was also exquisitely sensitive to the metaphoric or dramatic significance of each apparently isolated event, the manner in which each event is rife with endlessly poetic, echoing connotations. And here we go again with some Blake. I need to wet my whistle first. So now with some William Blake, Auguries of Innocence, lines 67 to 90. Every farmer understands, every tear from every eye becomes a babe in eternity, that is caught by females bright and returned to its own delight. To the bleat, the bark, bellow and roar are waves that beat on heaven's shore. The babe that weeps the rod beneath writes revenge in realms of death. The beggar's rags fluttering in air does to rags the heavens tear. The soldier, armed with sword and gun, palsied, strikes the summer's sun. The poor man's farthing is worth more than all the golds on Afric's shore. One mite, wrung from the labourer's hands, shall buy and sell the miser's lands. Or, if protected from on high, does that whole nation sell and buy? He who mocks the infant's faith shall be mocked in age and death. He who teach the child to doubt, the rotting grave shall ne'er get out. He who respects the infant's faith triumphs over hell and death. The vision of a true artist such as Blake is truly too much, because what is beyond our memory-restricted perceptions is too much. What our brain filters out, the bits that it doesn't let through, so that we stay sane and have an understandable perception of the world. It is the unfathomable totality of the world, past, present, and future, bound up together, every level connected to every other level, nothing existing in isolation, everything implying something vital but beyond our comprehension, and all of it speaking of the overwhelming mystery of being. The visionary concentrates on something we all see, hypothetically, say a vase of flowers perhaps, in all its complexity and beauty, each bloom springing forth out of nothingness before its dissolution and return, a haystack in the spring and its appearance in the summer, autumn and winter, observing and portraying the absolute mystery of its existence, with its different shades of light and colour, as well as the underlying commonality of form, from which we can easily confuse with the full and incomprehensible actuality of what is there. So I think what he's saying is, like, the non-artist sees it in the now, and the artist sees it across all time and form, and how it fits in with everything else in existence. And he said it to me again. Quote, "How do you know but every bird that cuts the airy way is an immense world of delight closed by your senses 5. That is William Blake from A Memorable Fancy in the Marriage of Heaven and Hell. To perceive Van Gogh's painting Irises, from which the illustration that begins this chapter is derived, is, for example, to gaze through a window back into the eternity that our perceptions once revealed. so that we can remember how awe-inspiring and miraculous the world really is under the mundane familiarity to which we have reduced it. To share in the artist's perception reunites us with the source of inspiration that can rekindle our delight in the world, even if the drudgery and repetition of daily life has reduced what we see to the narrowest and most pragmatic of visions. Now some more Wordsworth. But for those first affections, those shadowy recollections, which, be they what they may, and yet the fountain light of all our day, and are yet a master light of all our seeing, uphold us, cherish, and have the power to make our noisy years seem moments in the being of the eternal silence, truth that wakes to perish never, which neither listlessness nor mad endeavour, nor man or boy, nor all that is at enmity with joy, can utterly abolish or destroy. Wordsworth from Ode, Intimations of Immortality, from Recollections of Early Childhood. We're almost done. All of this is very, very frightening. It's frightening to perceive the shells of ourselves that we've become. It's frightening to glimpse, even for a moment, the transcendent reality that exists beyond. We think we border our great paintings with luxurious, elaborate frames to glorify them, but we do it at least as much to insist to ourselves that the glory of the painting itself ends at the frame. That bounding, that bordering, leaves the world we're familiar with comfortably intact and unchanged. We don't want that beauty reaching out past the limitations imposed on it and disturbing everything that's familiar. We do the same with museums, those asylums for geniuses. We isolate everything that's great, everything that could, in principle, be distributed throughout the world. Why can't every small town have a shrine devoted to one great piece of art, instead of having every piece collected in a manner impossible for anyone to ever take in at once? Money, money, money. Is not one masterpiece enough for a room or even a building? 10 great works of art or 100 in a single room is absurd, totally, given that each is a world in and of itself. Such mass collection is a degrading of the unique singularity. Such mass collection is a degrading of the unique, singular particularity and worth of what is priceless and irreplaceable. I do kind of get that. I don't like when there's like many big, it's a little like gauche, Is it fear that entices us to imprison art? Oh no, he said it is fear that entices us to imprison art. And no wonder. Killing me with more poetry to butcher for you. Have you reckoned 1,000 acres much? Have you reckoned the earth much? Have you practiced so long to learn to read? Have you felt so proud to get at the meaning of poems? Stop this day and night with me, and you shall possess the origin of all poems. You shall possess the good of the earth and the sun. There are millions of suns left. You shall no longer take things at second or third hand, nor look through the eyes of the dead, nor feed on the spectres in books. You shall not look through my eyes either, nor take things from me. You shall listen to all sides and filter them from yourself. And that is Walt Whitman, Song of Myself. It can be overwhelming to open ourselves up to the beauty in the world that we as adults have painted over with simplicity. In not doing so, however, in not taking a proper walk with a young child, for example, we lose track of the grandeur and the awe of the untrammeled world that the untrammeled world is constantly capable of producing. We reduce our lives to bleak necessity. You could have a garden. Just get a box and grow some plants in it. It'll teach you all the same stuff. It's heaps cheaper than decorating a room. And you won't have any ornaments to dust or any of that kind of stuff. Alright, that's where we're going to pull it up for the night. Just as the rain starts coming down again. Excellent. We'll pick it up tomorrow. Continuing on with Rule 8. Which I've completely zonked on again. Yeah. Try to make one room in your home as beautiful as possible. And we'll continue on with the subheading, the land you know, the land you do not know, and the land you cannot even imagine. Alright. So do let me know what you think. You know, is he, you know, or let me know if you read 12 Rules, the first one. Let me know what kind of impact it made on you, if any. And yeah, what do you think? We'll maybe go recap some of these rules at the end or something, and you know, see how it goes. But yeah, tell me what you reckon. But other than that, please consider hitting a like or the dislike button. Also, if you would like, we give away the books that we read at when we finish reading them. So if you would like to be one of the people that goes into the draw to be the recipient of this book, be the new happy owner, sent to you at my expense, then you do have to be a subscriber to this channel and just basically make a comment on the video that at the end of the series. But don't worry, that's not coming up for a while yet, probably another couple of weeks or something. So yeah, that's that. I'm not sure what the next book is going to be, actually. I've got one in mind, but I haven't finalised it yet. Yeah, so you can also follow me at my social medias, and also if you are a if you are a content creator, or if you've got an Instagram account or a small business or anything like that, please let me know, because I will go and find you and follow you, etc. I do follow back, and I like to support small endeavours and individual people's kind of pursuits and enthusiasms. I don't really mind in what your interest is. If you're passionate about it and really interested in it, then I'll be interested in it too, because if I don't know about it, then I get to learn about it from someone who is really into it. So you can also chip in and help us buy the next book if you ever feel like it, at the link in the description or the link that is coming into the chat right now. No stress, no pressure, although I will let you know that you do immediately and automatically become, I think it's at least 27% more attractive and charismatic when you tip to my channel. It's just one of those natural laws that happen. I think actually Geordie's got it. It's like a Rule 13 in this book, but it's like, like the secret tracks that they have on albums. It's like that's the secret chapter. Anyway, that's me. Hope your Milo hasn't gone cold. Mine has. And I hope wherever you are that if you need rain, you've got it. But if you don't, then you don't have it. Because we've been having rather a lot of it. And it's getting a little bit, wet. A bit waterlogged. Right. Love you heaps. Thank you so much for joining me or catching the replay if that's what you're doing. We stream every night except for Saturdays around about the 8:30 mark if I'm on time, but I'm not very good at being on time, but occasionally I am, like I think I was tonight almost. And that's about it. My name's Zebedee and this is my channel, Creatrix Zebedee, and that's pretty much about it. So check you later. Thank you very much. Enjoy. I hope. Oh, also, if you if you're in lockdown, it's all getting too much for you, all that kind of stuff. Please remember, even if you think no one cares, people do care. Even people that don't know you. I don't know you, and I give a shit. Okay, you have to keep breathing. I really need you. The planet needs you. Like all of us, we all need you to keep breathing. So if you are, thinking that it's all too much, struggling, or you just, can't, you're just too down and can't get yourself up, please call one of the numbers that are down in the description box. Reach out, call somebody, and hang in there. All right, hold fast, keep breathing. All right, love you heaps. See ya.